Hey guys, how we doing? Today's episode, I take a perfectly good hood and destroy it. Yep, destroy it. Well, sort of. Basically, I'm planning on putting a hood vent in it, and this is a hood vent here. It's actually out of a newer Chevy Camaro. I forget what year models, 14, 16, somewhere in there. But it's about the only vent that I like, that seems to match with the car, and just I think looks better. But yep, I already kind of got started. Once this vehicle gets heat soaked, it's hard to get that excess heat out of here. So ended up cutting a big hole in there, and follow along and kind of see how I did this. So I started doing some measuring as far as where I want to put this vent, and there's basically not really any good straight line to kind of measure off to make sure it's square to the hood. You know, the firewall isn't straight. The sides of the fenders basically are. The hood itself is not straight back here, it's kind of curved, plus it's got, you know, the different levels to it, so to try and measure up and over, it's not real accurate. So basically what I did is I went off the front of the fenders here, kind of drew a line and then went straight back to there, so at least I knew I had kind of the same distance from here, you know, back on each side. And my biggest thing is I would like to have the vent as far back, kind of on the hood as possible, but not get into this area here. I want to stay ahead of it, and it'll basically come out, you know, roughly here or so, just before that. But kind of one of the first steps that I made is I made a template here, basically just the width or the size of it, so I can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like on the hood and where I want to place it. I also, on the other side here, you can see I kind of have a line traced all the way around that I'll have to cut out the middle there, but that line represents basically the size of the hole that I'll cut out in the hood. So this middle piece will all be what the size of the hood is going to be cut, because you know, the outside of here is the outside of this, but that's going to be on the top side. So basically I want to cut it just big enough where it'll sit down in there, and then I'll be able to bolt it down. This thing won't, I'll have to make a mounting to bolt it down, because obviously this is off Camaro and it's not designed to fit in there. So once I get the hole cut, we'll set it in there, and then I'll have to make some sort of bracket or brackets where I'll be able to bolt it down or find some way of securing it tight to the hood. That hood has got a natural curve to it. This one kind of does too, plus it's a little bit flexible. But basically, after I got that made, I tried to figure out, okay, you know, about where I want it on the hood and about where it's going to sit, you know, kind of on the engine, to make sure I have clearance. And that was part of the measuring back to here. And then I just ran this string across so I can kind of measure off that point. And basically it's going to sit somewhere about here. Kind of, there's room to move it ahead, you know, a few inches one way or the other. But basically roughly there is where I'm going to put it. So once I kind of got that, an idea of where I was going to put that, I used a bunch of tin foil then to double check to make sure I'm going to have clearance. You know, I just folded a bunch up here on top of the engine, shut the hood a couple times, made sure it was mashed down, and it looks like we're going to have clearance. That one there was kind of piece I had bunched up already, but this was one here that once I shut the hood, it comes real close to basically the thickness from here to here. And I don't know how thick the hood is, so we'll gain a little bit, you know, upwards just from the thickness of the hood. But this is what's underneath the hood. and it's real close, so I think we're going to be all right. I don't think I'm going to have to trim any of this on the bottom side. I tried to line it up so I wouldn't have to really do any trimming, and if you look, I kind of got the bolts, I think it was about right there, and it'll have a little bit of an angle like that. So if anything, oops, I'll have to trim this little corner down here where it might end up hitting the intake, but that'll be pretty minor. So yeah. So basically the next step is going to be just double checking my measurements on the hood. I already have that basically lined up, you know, so I can put the pattern on there once I cut out the middle, and then I can trace where the hole is actually going to be, and then I'll be able to cut that open. Like I said before, don't really want to cut the hood, but worst case scenario, I got to buy a new hood and have it repainted, you know. Hey, it's only money, right? Money's cheap these days, right? So the next step is I'll get that pattern finished cutting out the center of it so I can get it on there, double check my measurements, and then basically cut that hole open in the hood. I'll probably set up a little time lapse or something of that, but kind of my goal is to, when I cut this, is hopefully cut it so if for some reason it doesn't work out and I want to go back, I can take this centerpiece that I cut out, actually just put it right back in here, and then fiberglass it shut again and repair it and have it repainted and whatnot. So we'll see. I'm hoping just to kind of drill small holes here and there, and then run a saw around there and cut it best I can without damaging it too much or getting into small pieces. So we'll see how this goes, I guess. Well guys, point of no return, I guess. Holes cut, turned out okay. Still have a little bit probably massaging to do, but it fits in there. There's a little bit of play there so I can move it and get it centered, but wasn't sure, I don't know how much of that you can actually see, but I wasn't sure if how thick this was going to be in the middle here, and if it was molded together, the upper and the lower pieces, or if it was one solid piece. And as you can kind of see right in here, you know, there's gaps. Here's a little bit of glue, and there's a little section, the whole back here. Let me see if I can get this. You can kind of see glue along there, and then certain spots it's open. So what I think I'm going to do there is I'll try and get this, some of this needs to be kind of pulled up. This side's probably the worst. On this side you can see a pretty big size gap, and then it moves a little bit. So I'm going to try and get this so it's actually spaced evenly all the way across, and then I'll put some epoxy glue in there, some body panel glue, and then just clamp it all together, let it sit and dry, and that way it's nice and solid. So when I actually go to clamp it, the vent on there, it'll be good and solid, and it's not going to give or start cracking in different spots. So that'll probably be the next step here, and then because once that glue sets, I might have to do some extra sanding to get that smoothie in, but otherwise, grab it, you see it. It's in there pretty good. You know, a little bit of wiggle to it, which is about all more I wanted, I guess. As you can see, there's a little bit of a, we'll flatten that out once we bolt it down, but I'll have to see, it doesn't look too bad down here. For those back 3 bolts, I'll have to make a bracket or something to clamp them on. Basically, there's the 3 or 2 up front. There's kind of a locating peg that I'll probably trim off. You get the 2 in the middle, and then the 3 in the back. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that locating one in the middle there, that white one. Probably just take that off, or I don't know if I can put another bolt there. But I'd like to make a piece that goes all the way around, and then just has little tabs or something that'll go to the bolts, so it looks real nice. I don't know if I'll try and make that myself, or make a template and then have someone maybe plasma cut or laser cut that out for me so it's real nice, but I'll figure that out next. But for right now, I'll kind of get this cleaned up just a little bit, and then we'll try and get that spacing on here and get that all glued and clamped, and then let that sit and dry, so then we can get to getting further on. But it's cut open, and yeah, it is what it is now. So if I don't like it, no turning back. I guess I'm going to have to spend more money and buy a new hood if I don't like it. So eventually I want to paint this red to match. We'll see. I'll leave it black for now, but ideally I think I'd like to paint it all red except for the screen here, the grating. I'll leave that black or something. I think that would look nice, but for right now I'll just leave it black. It does kind of match the rest of the car with some of the black trim on it. So I got the glue all set up here after it dried, and I had to go in and basically re-sanded it again so it's nice and smooth. Some of that had squirted out, but otherwise it's a nice solid lip all the way around, and it'll be a nice clamping force. I got a little bit of cleaning up on the other side, but basically here's the, fits right in there now. I think that'll look just fine. And now basically a matter of building a little bracket on the underneath here to mount it. It might be a little bit tricky, but what I'll do is I'll use that pattern that I used that I cut out the thin pattern to go around the outside and make a little bracket. I'll probably make it out of 1/8 inch aluminum, paint it black or something. Biggest problem is these bolts. Once you cinch it down, stick a little bit lower than what the hood does. So I'm gonna have to somehow, you know, have the clamp here all the way around, and then bring the bolt holes up a little bit so it really sucks that down tight. And then, you know, because there's that foam in there too. And you can see it's a little bit bowed, just because it's a different shape on the Camaro hood. But that shouldn't be too hard. Just a little time consuming making all that. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so I made some templates for the underside of the vent, just to secure it to the hood, basically to sandwich it. But I took some ram board and basically traced out the outer ring here. So this would be the opening of the actual hood. And then it would fit in there. And then this will clamp on the bottom side. And then I have 3 rows basically of bolts that hold that thing in. I don't know if I'm gonna have to go more or not, but actually turned out that the middle one here, I can just go straight across. But the front and the rear, when I made these templates, I had to kind of angle them down a little bit to get a little height out of them. This one will go here, like that. And then the front one obviously will go there. So it sticks up a little bit. Now the material I'll be using is actually going to be, you know, different thickness than this, so it might change when I actually transfer it to aluminum. But I made the ring out of a 1/8 inch aluminum for the big ring, and then this, it worked out that I went 1/8 inch too. But the front and the rear, just because it's going to be a little bit easier to bend into these shapes, I went with the thinner aluminum here. It's like 11 gauge or slightly smaller than that, I think. But I'll show you how far I've gotten. So basically got the trim ring on there. I got taped in place, so then I can kind of mark, you know, where these are going to be. So this one's on there, that's tightened down. It's just a matter of kind of welding it on. The bottom one I got made, that'll be tack welded on there too and finish welded on the bench. So now I just gotta bend up this one and form that. But see, it pulled it down pretty good. So it's just a matter of getting the front one done. Then I can take that whole thing off, weld it up, and then I'll probably paint it black or something. I don't know, maybe red, this color of the hood there. So it's coming along. So I decided I'm going to end up painting this. Just got to bug up my butt, I guess, and decided to paint this. I want to do red like the rest of the car here, but I want to leave the grating, the screen, I guess, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to leave that black. So I'm going to sand this down, kind of get out any imperfections or whatever, just get a little, rough it up a little bit. And then I'm going to have to tape off these screen here, but it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt, just because in certain areas it goes past. I don't know if you can see this really. Kind of goes past there, so I'm going to have to tape around each one of these little spots here so I can get down in the groove here and paint that. So that's red, but just the screen itself is black. So it's going to take a little time, but I think it'll look nice once it's all done. So yeah, we'll paint that just to match the hood, and then the screens will be black. The other side will be black, so I'll have to make sure to just keep that taped off so no overspray gets on there. Otherwise, I've already started going to my fancy paint booth here. I already got the plate, or the metal bracket that goes on the underside of the hood that holds the vent on, the hood vent on. So I got it in primer here. I'm just about ready to put some trim black on it. I think that'll make it look nice. And then it'll all be black underneath, and then on the top you'll just see the red and the black on there. So put a couple coats of trim black on there, and that'll be done. And then I can spray the hood vent here once I get it all sanded and taped off. So picked up some paint, and we should be able to knock that out today, hopefully. and see how it looks. Got some color on it. Got to do a little bit of wet sanding on it and then a final kind of buff and polish there, but otherwise it matches up pretty good, and then we can install it on a car. I gotta say it was a real pain in the butt masking off all this, you know, because this was all original black there, so I was trying to keep that best as possible, but to get into all these little where it joins up to the rest of it was a pain, just to get that masked off and everything. But I think it turned out pretty good. So for the most part you just see most of the red until you look from the back side. So it's a nice touch, I think. So we'll get that all sanded and polished up yet and put on the car, and we should be done with this project. Well, here's final product, guys. All installed, got everything tight. Looks pretty good, I guess. Well, as good as I'm gonna get it. So lower the hood here quick. And there we go. Matches pretty good. I think the vent itself is a little bit brighter, just because I just got done polishing and buffing that. So, but and that looks pretty sharp with the black mesh there. You know, from that angle. From this, you basically it's red and it matches. So, yeah, I like the outcome of it, and rather than just being all black, I think it works pretty good. So thanks a lot, guys. This wraps this video up. So I appreciate you watching, and hope you like this stuff.